Very important that you watch at least the first few minutes of this video, as the rest of this video is me showing you a worst case scenario if you're not able to get the belt off because your car is too low like mine and you're only in service position. Engine out or car jacked up, this is a much easier job than what I show, and there are unnecessary steps that I take. Okay, so the most unnecessary I'll start with is this M12 bolt does not need to be removed in any case. I didn't even have to remove it. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is these two 13mm bolts for the tensioner, also you do not need to remove them. You'll see a popping sound when I do it. None of the threads get damaged on this, and I've done this on enough tensioners before that I know you won't damage anything. So worst case scenario, you can do what you see what I do, but you don't need to remove the 13s or the M12, and all of these will come with your new tensioner, so this hardware doesn't need to be replaced. Now, if you're able to get the belt off, okay, using the 3/8 port that's on the tensioner, here's what I'm going to say. Having two people is very helpful, okay? One person putting tension on the 3/8 on the tensioner and the other person just quickly slides the belt off. But if you're alone, you might run into my problems, so I'm happy that I do have all of the worst case scenario / unnecessary footage in this video. All you have to do if you're able to get the belt off is you have to take off these 4 T30 bolts that hold the bottom bracket on. Then the whole thing comes out as an assembly. Okay? Now, continue to watch the video because you might run into the same problems that I did by not being able to get the belt off. But this bracket is not going to be included. Okay, you're going to have to reuse it. We still will figure out how to disconnect these two parts from each other properly. Okay, you might actually have to take that M12 bolt out to put the new one in, but that can be done when it's out of the car. That's my main point. Actually, it might not be bad to do it in the car because when it's still connected there, you'll be able to break it loose more easily and you won't have to put this in a vise or something. So until we reinstall everything and get the new parts, I am going to leave everything that I've done in the video that occurred to me before I had these thoughts when I was editing. And yeah, so to repeat, if you're able to use the 3/8 drive to loosen the tension and someone slides the belt off or you slide the belt off, all you have to do is take off these 4 bolts from the bottom of the bracket. Very simple with a T30 and you're done. You take this whole thing out. You don't have to do all the crazy stuff that you see me do with this hardware here. Now on to what I did.
Welcome to One Weighted Machines and the B7 Audi RS4 series.
In this video, we will be removing the alternator belt tensioner. Do note that if you are not in service position, this car is in service position, you're most likely going to need more swivels and extensions and methods to get this job done. Let's go over some of the tools. If there's more stuff that we go during the job, you'll see them during the job. You can use a standard 3/8 ratchet to put the force on the tensioner to release the tension. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch ratchet with a reducer. A breaker bar will probably also work, be easier, but that's probably better if you have the car on a lift. Now I measured this piece of cheater bar I found at the park and it's just under 3 centimeters. It'll probably be nicer in that tight area to get the good force to release the tension. My usual piece of scaffolding, that center piece, is just under 5 centimeters, so we're probably not going to use that. There's going to be a number of 13mm bolts. I'm just going to have it on a 1/4 inch reducer because that's the socket I found, but you want something short because of the limited space. I'm going to try to stay away from standard wrenches, not to strip these old bolts, and the same thing with the ratcheting end, but a 13mm wrench if we need it. This here is a flare wrench. It's not a 13, but if you have a 13mm flare wrench, that's probably the best tool to make sure you don't break these bolts, so you can put gentle force on them when you take them off. First item, if you've supported the front carrier section is to move your bricks and whatever supports you have over to the water pump side, as this is the area we're working in now. Well, that doesn't fit anymore, so I'm going to have to gently put it down for a second. Alright, so keeping the pan underneath the oil cooler lines is necessary. You get more oil draining from there. And this thing just keeps leaking coolant all the time too, so be ready for that. I'll talk more about coolant. There's some new discoveries I've made today, but that'll be in another video. So just this piece of wood I'm going to use to wedge, because the trailer hitch is now too thick on that side for some reason to go under the mounts that I've shown in the other part of the videos that you can rest something under. So the oil kept draining from there. Now I gotta clean up under the bricks first. And some more coolant has leaked. So I had to make my self-made wedge come in from the back, because the carrier, watch the camera, likes to curl inwards like this. The other way, and the wedge was falling out. So this is enough pressure here. Cleaned up to a decent degree. I've abandoned the breaker bar in favor of the 1/2-inch ratchet reducer and the thin piece of cheater bar under 3 centimeters in diameter, as getting that end of the 3/8 drive into the square hole on the tensioner, you're going to get rust dust falling in your eyes if your car's older like mine. And the other major thing is wear safety glasses, because stuff is going to fall in your eyes. It's very annoying. And the reason I would say the ratchet is better is because you're going to make micro adjustments to that 3/8 end drive in order to align it correctly into the square port in the tensioner. Okay, so that's why it's better than a breaker bar, more adjustability. I'm going to show this to you guys from out here, okay? But it's a bit counterintuitive, this tensioner, okay? When you look at it, what you want to do is move everything downwards. Imagine we're behind the AC condenser in the rad. You want to lift up with a lot of force, and you want to make the tensioner go in this direction, downwards. So there you can see where the 3-inch drive gets attached, and from here you're going to rotate clockwise. Be ready to grab the belt once you have the tension loose and take it off. This will be much easier for you guys without filming angles. Okay, so you see it needs a lot of force. My ratchet is currently in the clockwise direction. So the reason a 1/2-inch ratchet is going to be better than a breaker bar is you're just going to turn the clicker to the loosened side and then bring your ratchet where you want it and put your cheater bar on it. Okay, that's better. Now lock it again and put your cheater bar on, and let's see what happens. Alright, so as you can see, this cheater bar is way too long and I have enough space, so I'm going to go grab my classic scaffolding piece now. And see, if you let go, you lose it. Then you got to do it again. I can't see anything because of the camera. Okay guys, so here's what I'm going to say. I got this on and I felt movement. Okay, I absolutely have to move the camera to do this. So here's what you guys know. If anything changes, I'll tell you. But I'm just putting serious pressure upwards. The only thing I will say is if your ratchet handle is too far up, you have nowhere to go with this. Okay, so you got to find the middle ground on this angle where you can put enough force to loosen it and get the belt off. I'll tell you if anything changes. I'm going to keep the camera rolling maybe from a different angle, but it's not going to capture everything. Alright, so I'm just blindly reaching in to feel the belt. As I remove the tension, I'm going to try to get the belt off. So left hand is doing the work, right hand is going for the belt. Ah! Ah! Alright, so I got the belt off a bit, but it comes back on. Let me, screw this camera business, man. If there was no camera, this would be very easy, so you guys will have to put up with it just to see the DIY. Alright, so I'm just going to leave the camera there, but I'm actually going to undo the two 13s on the tensioner portion itself. This might be a retardation on my part to try to do this sooner, or it might be the other way around. Had I taken these two 13s off, I wouldn't be struggling like this with this, so let's see what happens there. Alright, so partially undone the bottom one. There's not much room here. Okay, let's crack the other one loose before. Alright, that one cracked loose easy too. Put on some safety glasses at this point because your ratchet's going to start scraping up against the rust. And you really need a good sight line of visibility to stay on your 13. Probably going to have to do the end out by hand or with just the socket itself because your ratchet will start to get stuck. No, there's still good room for the top one. The bottom one has a bit less room, but both of these are doable. If you use universal joints, then they're very doable, but I try to avoid universal joints whenever I can because they're very annoying to me. Alright, see my ratchet's starting to get stuck there a bit. See, if I didn't have to do the stupid 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch 13, if I had a shorter 13, this would be a breeze. Actually, I'm going to grab a wrench because I cracked them loose, so I'm just going to use a ratcheting wrench to finish both of them. Well, the ratcheting wrench won't properly fit on there, so I'm just going to use the wrench end. The ratcheting works on the top one. I've done tensioners on Hondas before. The only thing is, I'm not sure how much tension there is on this, but we'll see what happens. Not a good thing to experiment with RS4s, but hey, we'll see what happens. Alright, now that this is more loose, I can use the ratcheting side. Those bolts are pretty tough bolts. I hope I don't damage the threads on the bracket in case there's tension on this bolt. But it seems to be coming out smooth. I'm watching it come out. So fingers crossed I don't do something crazy and cost more. Oh! Oh! What happened there? Alright, so that was just a scary sound. The bolts are both pretty strong hardware. They're about the same size. They are the same size. Let's see if I can knock this tensioner off with a pry bar. Probably not the correct way to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways because if I had a lift or my car was higher up, I would easily get the tension off and pull the belt off. But I just don't have enough room down here with two hands to do it easily. Alright, so you have to put your cheater bar in if your car is very low as you put it in, and then you have to adjust the little knob handle. You can barely get your hand back there to position the ratchet properly. I'm going to stop explaining it, but I'm just telling you this phase will annoy you if your car is low to the ground. And the whole thing is the getting enough leverage with your ratchet at the right place. Alright, so you guys saw that there? That's definitely a lot easier. Not safe though, that almost flew right into my eye, the tensioner. So this is kind of my style, do it, don't do it. I don't know. You figure it out. If you can put enough force on it to lower that tensioner and pull the belt off with one hand in service position, God help you if you're not in service position. Good for you. If you're on a lift, this will be easier. Been repeating this stuff a lot, but filming this one and getting it out is quite annoying. Let's see how I get the belt off now that this popped out. Well, clearly now there's no tension on the belt, so I'm just going to take it off smoothly. What I will say, because some of you are probably thinking, man, this guy's really unsafe and crazy. Let me see if I can get this in the camera shot. Okay, so with the tensioner, the way I popped it out, those two bore holes, okay, they are not threaded. So once you get those two bolts out, this will be a bit seized in there because it's old and there's going to be tension on it because of the direction that it's in. But it will pop out. But 1000% have safety glasses because I got lucky when that thing fell down. It was coming for my face. So, but this makes it a lot easier. Let's see what we do on install. That'll be interesting, but I'm going to be more careful and by the book when I install stuff. Now the thing with the pry bar was it took barely any force, but just make sure if you do it the way that I did it, you put your pry bar into there is a thick piece of steel bracket there, you put it behind there to just give it a little nudge and then it'll jump out, it'll release tension. Do not put it on the oil pan or something sensitive that you could damage, okay? Please don't do that. Alright, so see, there's the belt, just came right out. There should be diagrams for the belt routing, so I'm not worried about that, but let's take a look at the components now that we got them all out. A triple square bolt, I don't even know what it's going to do, but maybe that's our final releasing ticket for the whole thing, so let's figure that out. Alright, so I'm really pulling the carrier forward because I have a larger triple square bit here. And this size, I think it's an M12. It seems to be fit. Oh, I got oil in my fucking eye. Ah. Alright, so I just dabbed some paper towel in my eye and got that 5W40 out. So nothing like carrot juice and some 540 oil from oil cooler lines or wherever that dropped from into my eye to keep you healthy. Now this weird triple square thing that I have, that's all I have. I'm either going to have to find an adjustable wrench, which I can't find in my garage, and I have many, or the right size wrench to use and turn this contraption. I think it's an M12, but we'll get into that stuff later. Yes, 13 works. All right, let's see if we can crack this loose. God be with us that we don't break this bolt. I will put a piece of cheater bar on my, say a prayer, and come on, baby. Oh, that didn't feel good. I think it's fine. I think I got it loose. Let's see. Oh, but this is starting to press into the rad, so I have to really pull the service position thing up. Okay, so I'm holding down with my left hand, the whole service position carrier. You see that moving? Got this loose. It's loose enough now that I can undo it by hand. I'll try to do it this way so you can see what happens real time. And yeah, there's a big puddle of oil from the oil cooler lines. That's definitely what really went straight into my eyes. So if you're doing all this at the same time, top tip, put the bolts for the oil cooler lines back in while you wait for your oil cooler line O-rings, because then you won't get the oil bath in your eyes like I did when you're trying to do this and the carrier moves violently for some of your bolt loosenings. Alright, this bolt is good, I think. But my M12 is really stuck in there because it's all rusty bolt. Let's see if we can get it. No, we can't get it all out. Oh my god, what have I done? Okay, push it back in a bit. No, I gotta remove the M12. Oh man, it's gonna punch a hole through my rad. Please don't do this. Oh god, come on. Release yourself, you piece of brilliant. Oh no. Okay, I gotta retighten the bolt if it'll even align. It's not aligning. Okay. Okay, the M12 came off. Got lucky there. And the bolt will undo it by hand now, the rest. Right, so nice piece of hardware there. Will things come off now? Or was that a useless removal? It's a pretty long bolt, so it definitely had something to do with something. What else am I supposed to take off here? Hopefully it's in frame, but I do think you'll have to remove this bracket with the whole contraption if you are not in service position. So don't mark my word, but remember this if you're not. But you're a brave soul if you do this not in service position. It is doable though. Alright, so before the break, you can see another giant puddle has come out of the oil cooler lines during this process, and I've been trying to avoid that. So I'm going to clean this up, charge my camera battery, and we'll be back to figure out the rest. So I dumped a little bit of cat litter in there. Just so you guys don't think I'm crazy, the pan that the oil cooler lines were going into was in my way, okay, especially with the camera around. But seriously, putting those bolts back, I don't think you'll forget your oil cooler lines are off. But maybe that's the best way to store them if you're doing both of these at the same time. Everything's cleaned up to a degree again, and I got the pan back under the oil cooler lines. The wedge fell out. Coolant always keeps coming out of that. Alright, so I realized the reason this oil jug I moved it was not even because it was in my way, it was in the way of the camera and the light. So we're going to move it away again and probably get more oil spill. Alright, change of plan. So because I'm not sure exactly how this is attached or what seized or tightened in there, there are 4 T30 Torx bolts on this bracket. When I take this bracket off, I'm sure that the whole mechanism is going to come out, so that is the safer way to do it. We're not going to pry on anything, we're just going to take out those 4 T30s under here. You can use a normal ratchet with the proper size T30. Of course I can't find it and I don't want my battery to run out again, so I'm just going to use our 1/4 inch setup to undo those bolts with the T30. It's all I could find. Ah, the third one looks like it cracked just like the other one, so we are home free. We might be. But seriously, use a normal T30 because it's very annoying with this small non-ratcheting. It doesn't ratchet when it's full of oil, and I don't need to explain this stuff to you guys. You guys do this stuff enough that you know. But yeah, filming a ridiculous job like this is... Oh my god. Okay, yeah. Okay, so those bolts are cracked. I will get them out, and my hands are full of oil because that bracket will be full of oil if you've done this like this. Like this. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Alright, so now that they're cracked, I could find a little bit longer of a T25, so I'm just using that to work them the rest of the way out, because the one at the closest to the driver compartment is a bit recessed, and that little T30 won't work on it. But just, you've seen in the other videos that T30 attachment that I use. That's what you want to use. Now, the bolts are different sizes, okay? There's a short one that goes closest to the driver compartment there. Now there's 2 more holes here. I don't know if there's anything inside them. No, one of them goes straight through. So hopefully after these 4, something will start to fall down, or we can figure this out. But what I was trying to say before when I lost my train of thought was this Yeah, these bolts are, yeah, 3 are the same size and 1 is a different size. But what I was trying to say before is, if you have oil cooler O-ring leaks, this bracket is going to be caked in slippery oil. So this becomes very annoying. Yeah, just make sure you use a T30 to crack them loose, okay? They are not T25s. So 4 bolts out, and everything is still very tight and non-moving down here. I don't even know if I should have taken those bolts out. I'm just gonna yank on this stuff a bit. Nope, nothing. Alright, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ah, cut my chin on a bolt. Yeah, prying against the oil pan is very tempting at this stage, but absolutely do not ever do something like that. I think giving it a bit of shock with a hammer onto this bracket might do the trick. I'm just going to give it a shock here, very gently, and let's see if something comes loose. If not, it means there's more bolts somewhere, or there's so much rust and seized stuff in this car that I don't know what to do. But this bracket's full of oil. If I could have gone back, I would have said brake clean this and get this completely clean, because my whole hand is slipping and sliding on this. Alright, let's give it a little shock. This could be a bad move, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Hopefully things are in frame. Just using a rag a bit to clean this up. So, 4-pound hammer. God be willing that I'm not being stupid here. Oh! Good idea. Alright, so there you have her. Took a little shock from a 4-pound hammer. Alright, so no pry bars were used. There are those 4 bolts. So that shorter one is for the one closest to the driving compartment. Now let's get everything on the table and go over it. So I'm going to substitute in the UK drag racer YouTube guy's voice for the rest. So, what exactly happened? Here we have the coolant leak, and the cat litter works quite well with the Audi coolant to clean it up. So, what exactly happened? Alright, I really don't have the acting prowess for that right now, but okay, let's go over everything that's on the table and see what's going on here, okay? This stuff is from a Honda Civic. I just have it here for comparison for people who want to understand that working on German cars, complex cars, is more difficult. See, for example, Honda gives you this nice piece here to get your leverage and tension on. Okay, this is a Gates aftermarket one, but on the Audi you saw what we had to do there and what I resorted to. Now, this whole popping out the tensioner, these hydraulic tensioners are similar. This one is from one of my Civics. This always worked for me, okay? So I've never damaged threading on the car side, but if you want to be extra careful, put a gargantuan amount of force and lift your car higher. Use a breaker bar or a lift for the Audi one, okay? But this method I've had for removal has always worked. The Honda one was from up top, so it was a bit easier. This Audi one, I'm sure I'll figure it out, but you guys have seen my videos. There will be detailed how I put it back together, the new one. Now, a bit more in depth with the tools. So you see where I've put my 13mm wrench on this odd triple square M12 that I had for the one bolt there. This is just a demonstration that if you're using a ratchet or anything, my wrench was on this portion, okay? If I would have gone any further back, I could have gone further back, but then it would have started wobbling. So actually, yeah, no, there's enough space in there for you to get an M12 triple square of a decent size to crack that bolt loose, okay? I'm just saying I put it closer forward to get more leverage without this bending, but my setup is very weird, okay? Now, these 2 bolts are in good shape, but as much hardware as my supplier has, I'm going to replace hardware as we go along. The tensioner, the whole boot is torn up. There's rust on it. This is definitely the one that was original to the car. Now, an Audi mechanic saw this car and said that if he takes this off ever, it is not going to have tension afterwards. Now, that's a thing I've heard with a lot of hydraulic tensioners. I've seen it in a lot of videos. BMW, Mercedes, doesn't matter what it is. just change it. Okay, I don't know if it will hold tension or not, and I don't know how those guys know. I guess maybe it happens to them a lot, so that's why they say it. And yeah, okay, another point. This tensioner bearing is completely fine. It's kind of protected by this like plastic cap on the front, but you can see this car has definitely been winter driven by its 10 owners, some of them at least, and there's rust on it. So I'm happy I'm changing out the whole thing. Now, based on what I've seen on the websites, that crack in the middle you see there is where the new tensioner piece that I'm going to purchase is going to go onto. The bracket will be cleaned up by me and reused. I'm not going to separate these two until I get the new one, so I know exactly what it looks like, what's going on. So we'll just leave this for the reinstall video, okay? With the 13mm, like I said, if I had found a 3/8 drive short 13, that would have been the best, but I had to use a 1/4 inch reducer. This made it a lot more annoying for me, even with the limited extra space that service position gives you. So do have a 13mm short 3/8 drive for those two bolts right there. Now, in other videos, you guys have seen the T30 that goes onto the 3/8 ratchet. That's what you want to use for the bracket bolts. These are what I used. You saw it there. That T25, I just put it there because I used that to thread it out by hand at the end once they were cracked. But that's the minimum length I would say you should use for that, because one of them is slightly recessed in. Here are the 4 bracket bolts. See the one that's shorter there? I'm going to try to replace this hardware if the supplier does have them. That piece of cheater bar, way too long for a car that's on short jack stands like mine. My car's on blocks. So if you're on jack stands even, a short piece of cheater bar, you are going to need it if you're going to release the tension in a more technical way. But honestly, like I told you, I've changed a lot of these hydraulic tensioners on different brands, and that style of taking the bolts out works for me, okay? And as you saw, okay, the reason I'm telling you can't damage anything, the only thing that can happen is the tensioner flies out and takes out your eye, which is why everywhere in the video I mentioned wear safety glasses. Seriously, wear them, okay? Be a dork, wear clean safety glasses. Is those two bolts were completely out and the tensioner was still holding its tension because it's old and it's seized up. If your car's cleaner, it might actually release itself, okay? Which is why I say the only risk that I can foresee, although I've never had this problem, is that the threads, if that tensioner decides to, say, let outwards or something, the threads could catch the inside female threads and damage those as the bolt comes finally out. Which is why I say, if you're going to do what I did with popping the tensioner out, because you don't want to put all that force onto it to get the belt off first, whatever, in any case, okay, be careful when those bolts are coming out. I'm just saying this stuff as things that could happen to you, okay? This might all be incorrect, what I'm saying. But just be careful, back those bolts out slowly so that if they start bending on you, you think of something to do. But I'm pretty sure you have to take the tensioner off separately anyways. I'm not sure. Okay, we'll find out on reinstall. Like, I've done this before, but I'm a bit tired and I'm forgetting stuff right now. Now, the shock with the 4-pound hammer on the bracket was completely fine. It was from the bottom and it took very minimal. Some of you are just going to be able to pull it off straight with your hands, but this car has a lot of rust and some of the owners have winter driven it, so everything's just a tad bit more difficult for me on this one. Now, here is something else that I want you to see. On the belt, there are parts missing. Okay, so it's a good thing we're changing the tensioner and the belt at the same time. There's 4 spots that look exactly like that. Let me just find the other ones. Now the thing I am going to say, okay, there's the other one. None of these are on the same line for you to think that something is damaged. They are in completely random spots. Alright, yeah, they are in random spots. So 2 of them are on one line and then 1 of them is on another line. So that means that this is just normal wear. Some debris might have gotten in there or something that I don't know and more experienced people know. There is a bit of chafing on the edges of the belt itself. That could just be debris. Yeah, it's just a little bit of grime. Okay, so there's absolutely no chafing on the ends. That's all I saw. So the belt is the original belt, I'm guessing, and everything's in good shape here, but good thing that we're changing the belt too. Okay, the belt routing isn't complex. We'll go over that later. But, yeah, pretty good. I mean, I really do want to order parts at this point. But in the next video, we are going to go underneath and I'm going to go over a whole bunch of other stuff and new coolant crust that I found and places where the coolant leak could have been. And you're going to see that there's more coolant hoses on the passenger side now and some rusty clamps. And I want to change those coolant hoses too, but they look like some of them are going to be a bear to get off. But stay tuned. Everything that I've said, we'll keep all these parts together and continue. But there is your my style removal of the belt tensioner on RS4s. And all of the bolts, again, see the two paint cap cans there? They're actually brake cleaner cap cans. A lot of people use bags. That's a safer method, but I keep all the bolts for each part together, and that's how I'm going to store them, so that whatever hardware new we can get, we can. If not, we have to reuse it. We have to reuse it. But the reason I'm replacing this hardware, for those of you that have been following this car and this whole series, I did break a T30 bolt on top for the fuel distributor thing on top of the intake manifold. So I don't trust any of these bolts, ever. And that's why you see me scared when I take them off if they're going to break. But we're almost there. Okay, we're going to do some more coolant hose removal. And yeah, just stay tuned for the next RS4 video. So you see there, all those associated parts are tucked away together with the respective paint cap cans. Moving along this shelf here, you can see parts of the water pump. Everything is together, okay? Those are the O-rings, oil cooler O-ring stuff in this one here. There's the water pump. I got stuff like this all over, okay? There's more stuff up there in that cow milk thing too. The only thing I'm going to say is storing stuff the way that I do, you don't want to do this if you share this garage with anyone or if you have kids around, because it will not work. Definitely use bags if you're going to do it that style. If you're going to have kids and other people sharing the garage, is what I mean.